Hi everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome back to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. And today I'm focusing on developers. So showing you how to access WordPress functions in your external or non-WordPress related PHP files. So thanks for taking your time to join me on this nice sunny Sydney afternoon. Welcome to those overseas and to those watching on a replay on catch-up. If you are watching on YouTube, if you can click the subscribe button and ding that bell, then you'll be notified of my latest video updates. Now, if you want to ask something, drop a note in the comments at any time and I'll try and answer those or circle back at the end. If you can do a hashtag ask at the beginning of your question, that just lets me look through all the questions easy to see them all there. If you want to drop a comment, just let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from in the comments. And that would be fantastic. Mr. Meowpuss, hello to you, one of our regular viewers. Thank you very much for joining us in this lovely, sunny and quite warm Sydney afternoon. It's been quite chilly last week, but yes, the temperature seemed to have popped up a little bit again, which is really, really nice, especially as we're heading towards winter. We have Joey J from Singapore. Joey is another one of our regular viewers, so thank you for spending your time with me. Okay, I'm just going to let all those other people join in. That'll be great, and then I'll just kick off in a little bit. But first, let's make this a little bit bigger. Been talking to some of the WooCommerce team at Automatic on Slack, as you do. And they are looking at rebooting the Sydney WooCommerce meetup group. Now, the last meetup was in November last year, I think, last online meetup. So there hasn't been one for quite a while, and they are quite interested in just, as I said, rebooting this meetup, getting it going again, and some sort of regularity. So we are looking to put together an organizing team. So if we can get like 3 or 4 people, including myself as organizers, that'd be fantastic. That'll give us the ability to be able to commit to doing those on a regular basis. So if you would like, if you are able to help organize or help in any way kind of organize this group, then contact me. Best way to contact me is through my website, zeropointdevelopment.com, or on LinkedIn, Developer Will on LinkedIn. So it's going to be an online meetup at the beginning, at least for this year. Probably an evening, maybe a couple of hours, just once a month during the evening, something like that. Maybe not even a couple hours. We'll just have to see how it goes. But definitely looking to get another 2 or 3 people on board organizing. So if you're interested in that, if you've never done, if you've never helped organize a meetup before, this is an ideal meetup to come into. There's not a lot to do when you're doing online meetups, just a little bit of social posting, a little bit of organizing. I'm happy to do most of the talks for a while. So yeah, if you're interested, hit me up on LinkedIn or through my website. But it'll be fun to get the WooCommerce Sydney meetup going again. Okay, let's go on with today's topic. So today we are talking about allowing developers to access your WordPress core functions in PHP files. So what do I mean by standalone or external or custom PHP files? Well, in this context, I'm talking about PHP files that are not associated with the WordPress core or a plugin or a theme. Okay, so these PHP files, they're probably part of an external system or an app or maybe just a script that you're creating. They're hosted in the same website space as your WordPress website, but they've got nothing to do with your WordPress website at all. Now, it could be a single PHP file that you're running maybe as a server cron job or a complex app that you use as part of your business. And for whatever reason, you need to grab information from WordPress into this PHP application that you're developing, that you use, or you're getting built for you. And this is what I'm going to show you how to do that today. But what about the REST API here? All the other developers saying, yes, you can use the REST API, and you probably should, to get information about posts, about users, about WordPress itself, without the need to use PHP functions. But this specific tutorial is talking about the PHP files and the PHP WordPress functions. So I'm not against using the WordPress REST API. And if you think what I'm doing is overkill, if you think it's too slow, that's fine. You can always use the WP REST API as well to do most of this stuff. But this tutorial is based on PHP WordPress core functionality and how to get them into your external PHP scripts. Okay, so WordPress functions. Obviously, if you're a developer, you kind of know what they are. But if you're maybe new to this area, if you're maybe thinking about getting into development and you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, when working with a WordPress website, developers are used to be able to call functions to get information about the WordPress, about what WordPress stores, so content. So we're talking about user information, products, for example, if you've got WooCommerce installed, posts, navigation, menus, pretty much anything to do with WordPress. There's a function to be able to get some information out of that environment or out of that content. And as long as you're working within the WordPress application environment, most of the core, the plugin and theme functions are available for you to use as long as you're working within that WordPress application context. However, once you leave that environment, those functions are no longer available. And this is what we're going to talk about just now. So when you're not working in the WordPress environment, these functions that WordPress has available, they are termed out of context or out of scope. So if you try calling them, it doesn't know where they are. It doesn't know where they're located, and you'll get a PHP error. So in order to access those native PHP WordPress core functions in your external PHP file, you're going to need to load or bootstrap WordPress within your external PHP file so that WordPress is now in context, in scope of the application that you're building in your PHP file. So let's have a look at how to do that. So like every other PHP application, it all starts with an index.php file, and WordPress is no different. So the web server, when it's configured for PHP files, and WordPress is all built in PHP, it's a PHP application. The very, very first file it will look at, it will expect is an index.php file in the root folder of your website directory. And if you have a look at the WordPress core files, that's exactly what you will see. Index.php file is the very, very first file that the web server will load, and that's where WordPress uses to start the loading system, the Bootstrap system. So if we look at the default WordPress index.php file, we can see it only does a couple of things. Let's have a quick look. So here's a very default index.php file. I've taken away some comments at the top just so they fit into the screen there easily. So that there are more than just these 3 lines, some comments at the top, but let's just look at what it actually does. So it really only does a couple of things. It defines a variable called WP_use_themes, and it sets that to be true. And then there's a little bit of a comment that just tells you what the line below in green, and that's the one that we're interested in just now. It's requiring, or it needs to load in this file called wp-blog-header.php. Now the __dir__, that's a PHP function, and it just means the current directory, the current server directory, or your local PC directory that you're in just now. We want to grab the file from there. Okay, so we're expecting it to be in the same directory that the index.php file is. So that's the very first file that WordPress calls, this index.php file. It's setting a variable to true, and then it's loading in this other file called wp-blog-header.php. And that kind of goes back to when WordPress was a blog. So that's why it's called blog header. They probably renamed it something different if they were building it today. But let's have a quick look at this file and see what it does. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so you can see that. Okay, so this is the file that the previous file index.php was loading. So it's wp-blog-header.php. Bit of a mouthful, but there it is. So again, I've stripped out some comments from the top. But this is the main block of code that we're looking at. And this is pretty much all of this file. So there's a little bit of a comment at the top, but essentially this is all that's in this file. So it's doing a little bit of an if statement. So if something isn't set, if that variable wp-header isn't set, then it calls this code within this if function. And the first thing it does is it sets that variable to true, which means if you're trying to reload this same file twice, then that's already set and it doesn't have to load in all this other stuff. But what we're looking at, so it's not been set, it sets it to true, and then we're calling this code block in the middle. And we can see the line in green there is require once, so it won't load this in once, a file called wp-load.php. It does something else after that. It sets up the WordPress query, and then it kind of loads in the template files for there. But we're just really interested in this one. So the wp-load.php, we're not going to look at that file, but that file starts the process of loading WordPress into memory. So it starts to run the WordPress application for those. So that's the one that we're interested in there. So you can really see that those previous files, index.php, it's only got a couple of lines, apart from all the comments. And this one here has only got a small code block here. So which files do we need to bootstrap WordPress? There's two choices. There's this wp-blog-header.php, or there's this wp-load.php. Now, we know those two files can load in WordPress, but if we had a look at the wp-blog-header.php file, and it loads in this wp-load. That's essentially all it does there. So we can just use the wp-load.php because essentially the previous file is just loading in that one file. So we can safely use this wp-load.php file, include that into your scripts, and that will start loading WordPress into your application, your PHP application. Okay, now a little bit about this variable that was defined here. So this variable, wp_use_theme, so one that was set, let's go back. Oh, this one here. So in index.php, it sets it as true. If this is set to true, then WordPress will start loading in the current template files. Now, you might need those in your external application, but probably not. You probably don't need the theme functions and the templates to load in. So you can set that to false. And that means that WordPress won't load in all the templates that are associated with the current theme that you've got logging in. You're going to save yourself memory, and you're going to save yourself time as well. So if you don't need access to those theme files, you don't have to load them in. So just tell WordPress not to, and you set that to false. So here it comes to it. And this is the main crux of the talk today. So how do you load WordPress in an external or custom PHP file? So the correct way of doing that is to add these two top lines at the very top of your PHP application, your PHP file, before you start calling any WordPress functions. So the line is defined, wp_use_themes. I'm setting this to false because my application I'm building, I don't need any template files, any theme files loaded in. So I'm going to set that to false. It's telling WordPress, don't load those in. I don't need them. I'm going to save memory. I'm going to save time. And then I'm going to use this command require once. I only want to load this wp-load.php file in once. Load it in once, and then that's it. So those two lines are what you need to add to your external PHP files. And what that's going to do is it's going to load in WordPress and all the core functions. And then once those two lines are done, then you can start calling WordPress functions like get blog info to get the site title or the admin email or things like that. Now, this little line, $_server and then document root, it's a PHP function or PHP statement, and it just returns the file path. So from your local machine or from your web server, the file path all the way up to the root directory, and that's where all your WordPress websites are, all your website files are. So that's just a little shortcut rather than you have to say c-users/will/ all this sort of stuff there. So we're just loading that in from the root where all the files have been installed. And then we're loading in that one file, wp-load.php, and that's going to start the WordPress Bootstrap function. Now, for a lot of people, you have WordPress in a subdirectory, and that's fine. If you do have WordPress in a subdirectory or a folder on your server, then just make sure you can use the same line, require once, but just make sure you put that subfolder name in between the document root and the wp-load.php and point to the folder where that file lives. And then your script will load it in, no problem at all. And you've got lots and lots of WordPress core functions in your external PHP file. So that was it. That was a real quickie one today. A little bit of developer, a little bit techie focused today. I like to keep you guys on your toes. I know we have a lot of beginner people that watch into this, but certainly there's a lot of people who maybe like to get into development, or who maybe don't use WordPress but know that their clients do have WordPress and they need to get some information out of there. This is a really easy way to get started and how to grab that information out from there. So there you go. 2 simple lines to add to the top of your external PHP files. That's going to give you access to the WordPress core PHP functions. So I hope you guys find that useful in your PHP projects, whether you're a WordPress developer or not. So if you guys have any questions, I'm not expecting any questions from this topic today, but if you do, drop them in the comments just now, and I can circle back to those. If not, then let's see what's happening next week. So next week, I'm going to be looking at a little bit more code, but some that you can copy and paste. So you don't have to be a developer to understand this at all. So I'm going to be talking about how to add WooCommerce customer and order data, or anything else, but mainly customer and order data, into your Stripe transactions. So you can easily match outgoing lump sum Stripe payments with orders in the WooCommerce dashboard. So why am I looking at this? Well, if you haven't used Stripe before, what Stripe does is it collates all the transactions from your WooCommerce store or any membership store that you have that you use Stripe with. It collates them all together and it pays you out a lump sum every 3 days. I think it's 3 days in Australia. Now, because it's lumping together all these transactions, that means you get one payment into your bank account. And if you are a good person and you're reconciling all your accounts, which you should do, then you might be scratching your head as to where all this money is coming from and all the different types of transactions if you're trying to match them up with your invoices and your account system like that. So because by default, Stripe only really stores the email address with the transaction from WooCommerce, it might not be enough to separate out multiple transactions so you can reconcile them with your invoices. So this little bit of code here, it's going to allow you to store things like the customer name, the customer company name, maybe what they ordered, the order items as well. And that'll be stored on your Stripe transaction. So when you go into your WordPress dashboard, you can look at your Stripe transaction and see exactly what that data or what the payment has been coming in from and match that to your WooCommerce transaction and then your payment invoices. So hopefully that'll be a little bit helpful to people. So join me next week at 1 p.m. on Thursday and I'll cover that one there. If not, please send me some topics that I can cover for some WP Quickies. I've got quite a lot to fill out for the year. I'm determined to stick with the WP Quickies this year, and I'm thinking maybe about doing a podcast next year. But we'll just wait and see about that. But I do need more topics, so fill out that form. Let me know what I can talk about WordPress related in 30 minutes that you'd like to know about. And just a little quick shout out for WPAustralia.org. If you haven't already been on that link, certainly go there. And that's going to tell you about all the WordPress meetups in Australia that's happening. Some are going back to physical meetups just now, and some are still staying online. And as well, the Slack community, there's a button there, and that will tell you exactly how to join our little community on Slack. So you can get to know people, you can ask questions, and post some tips and tricks as well. And that's a little screenshot from Slack there. And there's lots of different groups for different interests, from business tips to code help to job board as well. So come and join Slack, chat to some people, get to know some of the people in the WordPress community, because we can't get to meet each other face-to-face in meetups just now. And as always, happy to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. So I am at Developer Will. I'm on Instagram as well, and sometimes on Twitter. If you are connecting with me for the first time on LinkedIn, just leave a little note with your connection, just so I know that where you're coming from. Okay, guys, thank you so much for spending some time with me. And join me next week for this WooCommerce Stripe one, and I'll see you then. Ciao.